Most people think hope lives only in the mind, as a fragile emotion that rises and falls with circumstances. But from a medical and physiological perspective, hope is far more powerful than that. Hope is a biological trigger. The moment a person begins to believe that improvement is possible, something measurable shifts inside the body. Stress hormones, such as cortisol, begin to soften their grip. The nervous system eases out of constant alert, and the internal environment becomes more favorable for healing. This change happens quietly, without drama, yet it influences every system in the body. Hope does not wait for recovery to begin, it initiates it. Consider what happens when hope is absent. The body remains in a state of threat. Muscles stay tense, breathing becomes shallow, digestion slows, and immune responses grow confused or weakened. In this state, even the most advanced treatments face resistance. The body is not failing, it is protecting itself. Hope sends a different message. It tells the body that the danger has space around it, that this moment is not the end of the story. That single message alters chemistry, signaling the brain to release neurotransmitters that promote calm, focus, and resilience. Healing is no longer blocked by fear. What makes hope extraordinary is that it operates beneath conscious effort. You do not need to force optimism or deny pain for hope to work. Hope can exist alongside uncertainty, discomfort, and doubt. It simply whispers possibility, and the body responds to possibility with cooperation. Blood flow improves, inflammation begins to settle, and repair mechanisms function more efficiently. These responses are not philosophical ideas, they are observable patterns supported by psychoneuroimmunology, the science that studies how the mind communicates with the immune system. Think about the power of expectation. When patients believe a treatment can help them, their outcomes improve, even when the treatment itself remains unchanged. This is not imagination, it is the placebo response, and it demonstrates the body's sensitivity to belief. Hope is the foundation of that response. It primes the brain to engage healing pathways, to release endogenous opioids for pain relief, and to activate immune cells more effectively. In this way, hope becomes a collaborator with medicine rather than a substitute for it. Hope also restores rhythm to the body. Chronic stress disrupts natural cycles, sleep becomes fragmented, appetite loses balance, and energy fluctuates unpredictably. When hope returns, these rhythms slowly begin to normalize. Sleep deepens, breathing becomes fuller, the heart rate stabilizes. These shifts may seem subtle, but they accumulate day after day, creating an internal environment where recovery is more likely. Healing is rarely a sudden event. It is a gradual return to balance, and hope accelerates that return. One of the most misunderstood aspects of hope is that it is not blind positivity. Blind positivity creates tension because it demands certainty. Hope, in its healthiest form, is gentle and flexible. It allows the body to relax because it does not insist on outcomes, it invites them. This relaxed state is critical because the body cannot repair itself while it is preparing for danger. Hope tells the nervous system it is safe enough to begin restoring what has been damaged. Perhaps the most important hook to remember is this: the body is always listening. Every thought, every belief, every expectation is translated into chemical signals. When hope is present, those signals favor healing. When hope is lost, the signals favor defense. You may not be able to control every diagnosis or circumstance, but you can influence the signals you send. In that influence lies tremendous power. Hope is not something reserved for the strong or the lucky. It is a physiological resource available to anyone willing to stay open to possibility. Even a small amount of hope, a single breath taken with intention, a quiet belief that today can be different from yesterday, can begin a cascade of biological responses. In that cascade, the body remembers its original design. The body does not begin healing with medication or procedures. It begins healing with signals. Long before a cell repairs itself or an immune response activates, the brain decides whether the environment is safe enough to invest energy in recovery. This is why the body listens to the mind before it heals. Every thought, belief, and expectation becomes a message, translated instantly into chemistry. When the mind is locked in fear, the body prepares for survival. When the mind holds even a small sense of possibility, the body prepares for repair. Fear is efficient, but it is expensive. It demands constant alertness, elevated heart rate, shallow breathing, and the continuous release of stress hormones. In this state, the body conserves energy for defense, not healing. Digestion slows, immune responses become inconsistent, and inflammation lingers. Many people assume these reactions are signs of weakness, when in fact they are signs of a nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do. The problem is not the response. The problem is how long the body is forced to remain there. The mind, through perception and interpretation, often keeps the alarm switched on. Now consider what happens when the mind shifts, not into denial, but into awareness. When a person believes they are supported, guided, and not alone in their experience, the brain reduces its threat assessment. Breathing deepens naturally. Muscles soften without instruction. The parasympathetic nervous system, responsible for rest and repair, begins to dominate. This shift is not symbolic, it is chemical, electrical, and measurable. The body receives permission to heal. One of the most powerful hooks in health is expectation. Studies repeatedly show that patients who believe in their treatment experience better outcomes, even when the treatment remains identical. This belief does not magically cure disease, it aligns the body with the therapeutic process. When the mind expects improvement, the brain releases neurotransmitters that reduce pain perception, regulate immune function, and improve cellular communication. The treatment works with the body instead of struggling against internal resistance. Self-talk plays a critical role in this process. The way a person speaks internally becomes the tone of instruction the body follows. A mind constantly repeating hopeless narratives teaches the body to conserve, withdraw, and brace. A mind that speaks with calm realism teaches the body to adapt and respond. This does not require constant positivity. It requires honesty paired with possibility. Statements like, "I am doing what I can," or "my body knows how to respond," may seem simple, yet they shift neurological patterns in meaningful ways. Another overlooked aspect is attention. Where attention goes, neurological energy follows. When attention is fixated on symptoms, fear, and worst-case scenarios, the body amplifies those signals. When attention expands to include breath, posture, and moments of calm, the body receives a broader set of instructions. Healing does not require ignoring discomfort. It requires preventing discomfort from becoming the only message the body hears. The mind also influences healing through meaning. When a person feels their suffering has context or purpose, the nervous system reacts differently. Meaning reduces stress responses and increases resilience. This is why individuals who feel connected to values, relationships, or a sense of growth often endure illness with greater physiological stability. The body responds to meaning as it responds to safety. Perhaps the most important realization is that the body is not separate from the mind. It is an extension of it. Every mental state has a physical footprint. The heart, lungs, immune system, and most people believe healing requires fighting. Fighting the diagnosis, fighting the pain, fighting the fear. But the body does not heal through force. It heals through cooperation. Healing begins when resistance ends. Resistance is not courage. Resistance is tension. It is the tightening of muscles, the holding of breath, the constant internal argument with reality. When the body senses resistance, it interprets the environment as unsafe. And an unsafe body does not repair itself, it protects itself. Resistance keeps the nervous system locked in survival mode. In this state, the brain prioritizes alertness over restoration. Heart rate remains elevated, stress hormones circulate longer than necessary, and energy is diverted away from digestion, immunity, and cellular repair. This is why people can follow every medical instruction perfectly and still feel stuck. The body is not refusing to heal, it is waiting for permission. That permission arrives through acceptance. Acceptance is often misunderstood. It is not surrender. It is not giving up hope or lowering expectations. Acceptance simply means stopping the internal war. It is the moment a person says, "This is where I am right now," without judgment or panic. That statement alone releases an enormous amount of physiological tension. Breathing deepens, shoulders soften, the nervous system recalibrates, and in that recalibration, healing pathways reopen. One of the most powerful hooks in recovery is this: the body cannot repair itself while it is being commanded to stay on guard. Acceptance signals safety. When the brain detects safety, it shifts control to systems designed for maintenance and repair. Blood flow improves to organs, immune cells become more efficient, inflammation begins to regulate itself rather than escalate. None of this requires positive thinking. It requires presence. Pain often increases when resistance increases. The more a person tightens around discomfort, the louder the nervous system amplifies it. When resistance eases, pain does not necessarily disappear, but it changes character. It becomes information instead of a threat. This shift alone reduces suffering and restores a sense of agency. The body responds differently when it is listened to rather than commanded. Acceptance also dissolves the exhausting need to control outcomes. Control creates strain because it demands certainty in an uncertain process. Healing is rarely linear. It moves in rhythms, pauses, and small reversals. Resistance reacts to every fluctuation as failure. Acceptance understands fluctuation as part of adaptation. This understanding calms the mind, and a calm mind creates a stable internal environment for healing. There is a profound physiological difference between saying, "This shouldn't be happening," and saying, "This is happening, and I am still here." The first statement triggers alarm. The second restores grounding. Grounding anchors the nervous system in the present moment, where healing actually occurs. The body does not heal in imagined futures or feared outcomes. It heals now. When resistance ends, energy is no longer wasted on internal struggle. That energy becomes available for repair, regeneration, and resilience. Many people are surprised to find that acceptance does not weaken them, it strengthens them. It creates clarity. It allows better decisions. It improves adherence to treatment because actions are no longer driven by panic, but by awareness. Acceptance also deepens trust in the body. Trust does not mean blind faith. It means recognizing the body's intelligence. Every symptom is a communication. When resistance drops, communication improves. The body no longer needs to shout to be heard. Subtle signals become noticeable: fatigue, hunger, tension, rest. Responding to these signals restores balance more effectively than force ever could. Perhaps the most overlooked truth is that healing is not something you do to the body. It is something you allow. Resistance blocks that allowance. Acceptance opens it. The moment you stop fighting your present state, the body begins moving toward a different future, not because you demanded it, but because you finally made space.